Hi everybody, it's Dewey Duck, and we're here with Jamar S. Russell. We're both poets, and we have an interesting story. Jamar was well, you probably know if you've been listening to us before, but quickly, Jamar was a prisoner in the Maryland State Prison for 12 years, and I basically was under psychiatric observation for the last 50. So, how are you, Jamar?
I'm great. How about yourself?
Good. So today we're doing we're going through the Live Love program, learn, integrate, validate, explore, and now we did learn, and now we're doing observe. So that's what we'll do, and we'll just start with a poem, and this is sort of something that I just wrote it, reflecting on my goal, my desire to be a writer, and basically to be inspired. So this is called The Prayer of a Wordsmith. Great Lord above, please look down on my literary works and bless me with great patience of a novelist to describe with words situations that resonate with an audience as they follow flow of the narrative, and grant me clear precision of a poet to express universal thought while giving me the fine insights of an essayist knowledgeable in the subject about which one craves to know the essence, while filling me with the real ability of a playwright to resolve the conflict of dramas upon which all literature is based, as I employ the creativity that's the foundation of all I have composed.
You think that you became that writer?
I hope so. I am not a playwright or I'm no longer an essayist, but I figure with 6 novels and 5,000 poems, I basically have become the writer I wanted to become.
Mm-hmm.
And what you got for me, Jamar?
Yeah. As far as observation, this one is titled "My Morning Walk to Breakfast." My morning walk, the call to breakfast, 4:30 a.m. to about 5:20 a.m. It depends. I expect the air to be crisp. Coolness kiss the skin of my face once I pass through the building's door threshold. I hope it's dark sometimes and the sky is clear so I can see the moon bright or stars. There's little light pollution where I am. If not, I hope to see the beautiful colors that the light of the sun displays in its rise. This is what I enjoy. My morning walks to breakfast.
Very nice. So that was like a reflection on basically getting up and going to breakfast in prison, right? And
Yes, sir.
so you had to get up at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, generally, on the compound where I was, there was 5 buildings, 4 of them that you can actually leave because one of them was seg, the whole lockdown, whatever. But so each building they would call at separate times. So of course it'd be very early in the morning, and once the doors hit or the call is to go to breakfast, got to be ready. Because
Right.
sometimes, depending on, like I was eventually on the honor tier where I can go in and out the door myself, right? However, for the regular general population, those doors open, you got to be ready. Because when they'll get closed, you either locked in there or that's what's up.
So yeah, this brings up we haven't talked about. Excuse me. I don't know what's going on with my nose. I don't know, but it's running. But sorry. So what was your routine? What was your daily routine when you were behind bars?
So Monday through Thursday, I worked at the shop, which is Merlin Correctional Enterprise, in the print shop. So I'll get up 4 o'clock in the morning, get myself ready. I'll normally be out um, reading, writing until they call for us to go to work, and then I will work in the shop from like 5 to about 2 o'clock. Come back, take a shower, do whatever I can do before count time because the shift changed. That's when they would have the different offices, which would be like around 3 o'clock. The shift would change. After that, people come out, sanitation, clean, whatever. Um, then not too long after that, they'll be calling for another meal. You go out, and depending on if they got wrecked that evening and some other type of thing, anything that a person might be into, if we're not locked down. During COVID, everybody was just locked down and everything was pretty much shut down, so there wasn't much movement, and that's a lot of times how it was. So on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, which you know it might be like a staff, we might not be out, stuff like that. I would get up, have my coffee, maybe work out, after I watch Joel Osteen or TD Jakes or something like that, get my mind right. Then depending on what was going on that weekend, determine how the rest of my day would be, maybe getting on the phone or communicating with, loved ones or something. But that's pretty much what it was. Be working on some type of project to get things taken care of to get out of there.
So, is the food as bad in prison as they say?
Yeah. Yeah. Every once in a while you'll have some stuff, but that was one of the things that I used to reflect on, is that there was such amount of food that wasn't like a lot of it was thrown away, and I thought that was crazy because if the food is being wasted, that means money being wasted. So what
Right.
would be the point of buying bad food? Like, and then on top of that, if this food is not being eaten, and that means a lot of people may not be getting the nourishment that they need and stuff like that, and I have to rely on um, rely on commissary, which a lot of times would be high in sodium or stuff like that, which would be very unhealthy. So it just wasn't good.
And it was 3 meals a day?
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted them, because
Right.
um, being at the so when I wrote that morning walk to breakfast, most likely I was going to work if I had to go to breakfast first, because after a while it wasn't worth getting up that damn early, you know,
Right, right.
and the thing about it is you'll still be woken up, but it's just the whole thing of going and coming and then to eat something and then have to lay back down because you gotta go, lay back, you gotta go back to the cell. It just wasn't something that, was healthy or something that was I felt like worth doing sometimes. So when I didn't have, of course I wanted to make every meal, because I really didn't have commissary or may have not had it to be able to say I could miss it when I probably could have, but you get hungry in there because the meals aren't, a lot of times they're not filling, or it's a lot of stuff that you may not want.
Mm. And tell us about lockdown during COVID. That must have been like very frustrating, right?
Yeah, very frustrating, depressing. Uh, so being
Was there no communication between people, or just like was it with your roommate or your
well, you
cellmate, or
can't.
what?
They couldn't stop any of that. Like, you everybody's on the tier or in their cells. I mean, you probably may not be able to communicate with people in other buildings or other tiers. But you still needed workers to pass the food out. You still needed, people to come around to, you know, do whatever, whether it was give out, I don't know, ice or something. but you couldn't really prevent that, because even if somebody, like in prison, people communicate through doors or
Mm.
communicate whatever. There's a lot of shouting, a lot of screaming, a lot of times if people need to do that. That's why I would, um, fortunately, where we were able to have stuff to where I could have earbuds and tune a lot of stuff out because
Right.
I wouldn't be trying to hear it. Like,
What's been the most welcome gift since you got out? Just like socialization, or the fulfillment to work, or what would you say is like really like the thing that you really notice about yourself? Uh, you know, before and out of prison. Is there like something that you feel like really distinguishes you, like in and out?
uh, I still carry with me the drive and focus of pursuing my goal. Um, and I can be hard on myself because I know sometimes I'm not doing all that I could be doing, but it's still pushing towards it. Like while I was in, I was pushing towards my freedom, not really knowing how I would get it. Now I'm pushing towards another form of freedom, whether it be financial or whatever. It's just not knowing, but still going after it and pursuing. One of the things that I will always remember is when I first came home, and this is not being released from prison, but being released from the Jew house where I did inpatient for about 3 months. My nieces
Okay.
came down from Jersey as well as my aunt and surprised me. And I thought that that was huge, like to be able to see them not knowing that they were going to be there and they thought enough, to come down and,
Right.
spend some time with me. So that was good. So being able to reunite with family, to see in a different atmosphere, because of course in 12 years the children grow.
Right.
Um, you know, my cousins or everybody, people, they've gone on, and done more in their life, and we're all different, but this is still love.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, yeah, from my own experience, I just sort of felt like, well, now that I've come out to Colorado Springs and basically broken the Hackensack jail uh, mindset that I had, it's like really what I'm finding is that I'm just like a lot more at peace. I is like when I was in Hackensack, I was always like sort of basically in flight or flight, I think, and now I'm sort of like relaxed beyond that, but it's a process.
How's the relationship with your loved ones?
Well, pretty distant actually. I mean, my sister is in Montana, and she and I are getting along a lot better. And Andrew, my podcast co-host, whose house I'm in now, we're getting along great, and he's basically a new friend. So uh, we've taken this opportunity to really get to know each other on a deeper level, and that's really important. And then I have my text girls, my pixel ladies, who basically I've never met, but I feel that they're real, and so my you, I don't know, my connection to loved ones has become like a lot less focused over the last like 5 years. It's just like uh, basically there are like six people in the world that I care about, and that's all I really want to be happy with.
I think that experience that I had in there too, it kind of changed things as far as me with family too, because I have gotten so used to not being around them or not seeing them,
Right.
or seeing them in pieces or maybe talking to them here and there. So that definitely takes some time, and it's still taking time to figure out the best ways to show up and when to. I still used to always remember like birthdays and events. It's kind of easier while you're in there because it's not any, it's no, there's a lot less distractions. It's very,
Right.
can be mundane, day in, day out, Groundhog Day type of situation, where a lot of times I would lose track of dates and stuff because one day just seemed like another in there, you
Right.
know, where out here, constantly getting busy doing a whole lot of things, in pursuit of goals and stuff that where it's like, okay, I gotta remember these dates or a day to come by and it just be like, I know it's somebody's birthday or something that's happening in this
Right.
day and
Right.
it's just like, yeah.
So tell us about how your career as a poet is coming along.
So, um, the day that I graduated from the reentry program, which allowed me to be out past curfew, my lady had took me to this event called Pure Poetry, and it was wonderful. A lot of people there, you know, very very social spot. You know, people on the stage performing poetry. I just felt like, man, this is great. And I had been had it on my mind to hit open mics, and in the area which we are, we have these restaurants called Bus Boys and Poets, where they also have open mics on various at various locations on different nights. So I featured at um, a few of them. I've pretty much touched the stage of all of those except for the one that's in Shirlington, Virginia, which I guess at some point I will. It's just the night that they have it that I want to go is a Monday night, which I'm in Upper Marlboro now.
Right.
And I've had been featured other places like Arlington's Black Employee Council to do their Juneteenth and uh, Black History Month event. Been able to do spoken word. Been able to be at New Carrollton Library for an event there, and you know, spoken word and Spit That Academy. So I've been able to use that even when speaking. I use the poetry as part of my storytelling. So it has been something. I haven't been doing as much lately because I've been kind of focusing on other things. But I mean, I have the books, I have the material, so
Right.
hmm
So bus boys and what?
poets.
Oh, okay. And what's that about?
It's a
Is it just
restaurant.
like a
It's a restaurant, bookstore, and they have open mics. So it's a nice vibe. You know, I definitely suggest you look it up, like on the internet if you can, to see where
right?
um see what it shows. But generally, they have book signings there. They have different events. It's really nice ambiance and stuff like that. So yeah, that's right here in the DMV area.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, for in the '90s there were a lot of open mics, poetic open mics around in New Jersey and everything. And I had this lady that I used to go with, and she would drive, and I. But so far as I can see, that's totally changed. There are very rarely like open mics in New Jersey anymore, and if there are, it's usually for music rather than for poetry.
I know there's definitely they definitely have them here. There's quite a few of them. You know, so many that is like kind of tough keeping up with them. When I was you know, made it my business to make sure that you know I let it known that I was out here. I would maybe doing three in a week. You know, and it
Wow.
probably was more that I didn't know about, but that's when I was on that campaign to do that. One of the things that why I fell back is because it was after a while it started becoming expensive. I might make
Right,
some
right.
money, might sell some books, but I might not. But I might be in there, want to eat, drink, or whatever, have a good time, and then it's like, all right, well, can't do this all the time.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, so uh, What your philosophy is about? Well, I'll say mine, and then maybe. So basically, my philosophy of poetry is the most elite of the writing arts, and basically, it's it. I guess I feel that basically it's mathematics with words, and basically every poem has its own logic which unfolds within the context of the poem itself, and the uh, the form and the logic of the poem is individual to the poem, but actually it's like overseen by the greater logic of the poet himself, which is me.
So, when you asked that question, it made me reflect on something that was written by James Allen, and I don't even know where this book is right now, but he
Is
spoke
that as a
about the
man thinketh?
yeah, he spoke about the poet in there, and you know, generally when I think about, so you don't hear a lot about poets outside of music, you know, you know,
Right.
making a lot of money, but still it takes somebody to not only be insightful and thoughtful to put, you know, this prose or verses or stuff together. Um, and you've always had it. You've had it with Odysseus. You've had it, you know, with, you know, through time, whether it be uh, David's Psalms or, you know, you've had poetry and you've had people that were great thinkers that do it. So um, I appreciate it because it puts me along the lines of a Shakespeare or, you know, anybody else that somebody considered a great writer. Um, and it's cool for me because I get to express myself and I can use it in a way that's free as like somebody performing jazz. I don't have to stick to any particular type, and that's basically what I do. More like free verse, spoken word with my style. So
So do you feel you're writing more for yourself or for the audience? Basically,
um,
I feel ultimately I'm writing for myself because I feel if I can express myself truly to myself, then it'll come across to basically a general audience.
I agree with that. I agree with that because I mean, in the times in which I'm writing, I'm not really thinking about um, other people. I usually was going through something myself. Now, if I was requested to do something, then I might consider the audience, you know. But
Right.
a lot of times, my poems are just reflections.
Well, yeah. So basically, I feel I'm writing for an audience of one, and whether that's like my muse or my one or basically God or whatever, it's like always focused on like that higher self that I'm trying to reach through my heart.
Yeah, I agree. Unless it's actually for somebody. Like you had shared some love poems last time. When I was writing love poems, it was something, either it was intended for somebody or just something that I felt because of um, what I may have shared with somebody.
Right. So, um, let me see. So maybe it's a little premature before the eighth lesson, but what would you say is like the greatest lesson you learned from your incarceration?
Uh, Trust in God and depend on God for what's to happen. Um, I'm not sure. Did I share with you about reading through Psalms and Proverbs in 30 days?
I think you did, but why don't you go over it again? I think it's a valuable thing.
So, somebody I used to go to school with, we end up in the cell together. We was in high school. He remembered me for selling $3 bags of weed.
Right, right,
So, um, and because Proverb has 31 chapters, you can read a a chapter a day in Proverbs. And then he showed me how you can do this also with Psalms if you just add 30 to each of it. So if you read the
right.
first one, read the 31, read the 61st, read the 91st one. What I got from that was trust in God, wait, and fight. So being that it was actually the state of Maryland versus Jamar Slade Russell, you know, I could have took a plea deal, but it was one of those where, I chose to be obedient and fight the situation. First of all, I didn't like the plea deals anyway. Then the rest of it was trusting the process on whatever was going to happen. Made sure that I did what I, said that I was going to do, and waited out, and it worked out for me. So, being that that showed me something, that was like a great lesson to take. It's just like trust, fight. In this case, is working. You know, um, so it's more so fight towards whatever I'm pursuing.
Right.
Trust in God and wait for the thing that I plan to achieve. To happen.
I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but have you ever like considered that your willingness to take on accountability for what you've done might have had like an effect on basically your early release and yeah and yeah, so I guess I'm sort of asking is do you feel that God sort of like gave you extra consideration because you were so willing to take accountability and responsibility for what you've done.
I know that that even became a situation with the actual, and this was told to me by the coordinator of the reentry program when I was asking about some men who I had been incarcerated with that they actually interviewed, and he was like, "Do why, what was the difference between your interview or anything?" And I thought it was me being prepared. He was like, "No, you were honest." Like I, spoke about what happened and what he was like, and he just basically shared is like, it's not like we don't have this file or everything that says what happened, but if you're not going to be honest about what happened and saying it, then why would we select you to be in the program? And
Right.
like the way I felt about it was I was already convicted. I was already guilty. What do I need to lie about anything for? And even with the situation, me fighting the charge in court, it was because it was my right to do so. It wasn't because I was saying that I didn't. I mean, I didn't feel like it was first degree. According to them, of course, if you leave the scene, that's considered premeditated, but not if you under the influence,
Right.
which I didn't learn until much later. But even with that, um, my attorney didn't pursue that right. I mean that route to defend me. Um, so sure, and when it comes to speaking to people that are the gatekeepers, as far as the law that was determining whether I was going to re-enter society, yeah, that definitely played a part.
Right. So, yeah. So, oh no, it's just sort of like the dichotomy between like accountability and responsibility, and also self. It's not a dichotomy, but like the combination of accountability, responsibility, and self awareness, I think, is very important. And to be self aware takes accountability and responsibility for your actions.
So this is the thing that Dale, when I speak to you, right? You seem more like a psychologist or a professor, than somebody that has been battling schizophrenia for years. So, um, that's amazing. But the other thing, I think us as human beings have to be realistic with
Right.
ourselves and not be in denial. Because how will we go forward? How will we deal with anything? You know, I'm not a fan of people that play the victim role, which, that happens in prison a lot with people because they feel like the law has railroaded them some
Right.
type of way, which is like, all right, there's people that's been wrongly convicted. That definitely happens. There's people that get pressured into plea deals, which when you face with a whole lot of time, that can be very intimidating. And it's like, well, I don't feel like I have a win, what I'm saying, in this system. And that truly happens. But then there's a lot of people that is just like, come on, stop playing.
Right.
Like, you know what you was out there doing. And even if you weren't convicted of this, you was convicted of that. And, you know, sometimes it's just, that's the way that it has to be. Um, I'm not for anybody being incarcerated that shouldn't be, you know. But it's still like those that want to play, man, they hit me with all this and they hit me with all that. Then we have a conversation and you talking about all the drugs you done sold or all of the acts of
Right.
violence that you might have been a part of. It's just like, hold up, what are we talking about? Like, huh? So it it seems crazy to me, but there are people that, you know, feel like a victim in those situations. And it's like, wow, instead of being like, and I felt like this for those of us that was in the streets, what come along with this, you know?
Yep.
Like,
Well,
what come along. So it's like, what, why you crying?
I think that's very true. But with mental illness, I mean, with basically in prison, if you did something and you get caught, then you need to. I mean, you can't say that you're a victim. Whereas with psychiatry and mental health, it seems like the whole system is directed towards keeping you in victimhood, and that's really why I think it took me 50 years to like basically break out of Hackensack is because, ultimately I kept falling back into victimhood. And even though I understood that everything that happened to me was for me, it still took a long time for me to really integrate that thought and see myself as self empowered and sovereign rather than a tool or a puppet of the doctors and the psychiatric system in which I was immersed.
Yeah. And that's something that, as I look at certain things today with different people, whether they might need a medication or may not, or the dosage may not be right and things, and it's it's important that people learn to advocate for themselves,
Right.
um, and learn, even how, because a lot of people don't know. They may not know, and I know of people that I don't like taking that medication because it doesn't make me feel like myself. And then there has to be a conversation with whoever's giving you the medication because that may not be the medication that's right for you. Or when it comes to certain things that can help, assist a person along, um, I don't know if everybody is being properly assessed. I don't know, and I feel like in some cases people just get grouped together and then they just do what is told to do because you're getting billed by Medicaid or whatever, the insurance company or whatever, and that's just the practices instead of really looking and seeing how can I help here, what can I do to help this human being along, and I think some of that comes from when we don't see ourselves in others, when it's just that's them over there, or you know, when you see the separation, then you don't see, or treat the person like they should be.
Right. Well, it goes way beyond just sort of like mental games of victimhood and everything, because ultimately, if you see yourself as a victim, and basically the negativity of that could make you very sick, and and not only just the process of like being a victim put you in a negative mindset that's going to make it very hard to make it even harder to recover.
Yeah. Mindset is always key. So
Yeah.
I could have chose to be defeated,
Yeah.
which sometimes it'd have been people in there, and I'm like, well, why you not trying this? Why you ain't? And they'll come up with an excuse. And I remember good man, Yasin used to say, excuses only sound good to those that make them.
Right.
Yeah, so when I would hear that, it would be a turn off. So it would just be like, you know what, I ain't even gonna waste my time bringing that up no more, because I can't fight for you. You know, you gotta be able to have that in yourself to go after. So it's probably a lot of people that could be free if they wanted that, but if they don't want it, then they're gonna stay where they are.
Yeah, well, that's a very hard thing for a lot of people to do, and I'm guilty as myself. Is basically people don't know what they actually want. I
Hmm.
mean, there's a lot of comfort in being a victim, and if you continue being a victim, then you're never going to get what you want, because you're always going to have that barrier of your own self sabotaging self getting in the way of you achieving what you want. And
No, I agree.
but you're also an example, Jamar, of what can be achieved when you know what you want.
Absolutely, and that's pretty much the goal. So for young people that's in urban areas, or what they say at risk, I want to be example for the you know what I'm saying, people that's in the streets, for those that are incarcerated. I want to be example to where it's not just somebody saying do this. It's like you can see it. This is it can be done. So
But I
that's what the
I,
goal is.
I definitely agree with that. I mean that's my whole shtick too. To tell you the truth, is to show to people
Hmm.
what can happen when you come out of the other side of schizophrenia.
Hmm.
I feel I'm in a time of like pure creativity, and there's like integration and alignment with the universe and with God, and I have no problems at all. I mean my biggest problem is I'm not sure what my biggest problem is. I don't think I have many problems.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, no more bad days, man. Is what some of the
Yeah, yeah.
guys say. That's out here. Yep.
So having like experienced the criminal justice system directly, and and inescapably, what would your judgment of the current system be? I mean, do you think it's prejudice against people of color, and I mean, just like what is your impression of like the overall criminal justice system? Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's like prejudiced, or
Absolutely. Um, Maryland um, has a high percentage of black population when we're not the, what I'm saying, the number one population in the state. We're a fraction of it. And certain places like PG County or Baltimore, where there are larger populations of black people. That's where a lot of, people that's in the system. And it comes with how places are policed. It comes with, everything else that comes along with years of prejudice, racism, and stuff like that. Because it doesn't just end, it's not just a black and white thing. Because being in this country, black people will look at black people a certain way, you know, just because of how the media
Yep.
portrays or stuff like that. So of course, anybody else that have doesn't have a regular encounter will be looking at them different. They're gonna go off of however the news or um, the media portrays black people, the music, the movies, So if there's an idea of that, then of course people treat folks differently. And yeah, so even with the actual system itself, um, I seen where it just things aren't done right.
Right.
Like uh, the prosecution is going to trying to prosecute and get a conviction regardless of whether it's right or wrong. There's I don't know if there's talks about come on, let's is this really something that we're trying to do? And I say that based off of some of my recent times in court. Two young men, they just happened to be Hispanic, and I think that might have had something to do with what was going on, but they didn't do anything but let off some fire extinguishers on the property, which, yeah, sure, it could have been trespassing or something like that, but that was something that kids do. They shouldn't have been entered into the system and charged with third degree burglary because of that. That's unfair. And even when going to court, public defender was like, well, I think you should take this plea deal. Like, no. Like, why should they be on probation or have to go through any of this stuff for just that? You
Right.
know? So that's unfair. I witnessed a guy, he was up for a modification, and the judge was talking about something that happened 5.5 years, well, nearly 5.5 years ago. Like, that
Right.
was who he was today. And it was just like, what are we talking about? He already got convicted of that when, you know, but we're talking about whether he should, we're talking about now, but you're still talking about then. And use that as an excuse not to give the man another shot. And that's what I see. Because, of course, you have the threat of, well, if I let them out, are they going to do the same thing? They're not the
Right.
same people. And there's statistic that shows um, those that do education, program or pursue a degree, the chance of them being a repeat offender or recidivism drops. Those that have done 10 years or more, which every, 5 years after that, it drops significantly. Those in a
Right.
certain age range, it drops significantly. Those that, and there's all of these factors, and I think that should be taken into account um, to assess somebody's likelihood, rather than going over what their charge was once upon a time. Let's look at what they've been doing since, you know. Now, if it's a person in there and they've been, you know, incarcerated for a decade and they still ain't got their damn GED, then that's like what you been doing with your time.
Right.
But if there's somebody and they have been in there for that same decade and not only done all the programs, created programs and stuff like that, then that's a great use of time and probably
Right.
somebody that'll be able to add value to any environment. So it's just a matter of judging things better. And also, when a person is able to make use of their resources, you know, because there's stuff, a lot of times, there's lack of the programming and stuff like that in there. But let's say person been reading hundreds of books. and able to prove that to you. Is that the type of person that you think that you got to worry about? Now, I guess it depends on what type of books too. If it's like let's make a
Right.
bomb, then no, let's not bring that. Which they don't have. They don't allow material like that inside. But if it is somebody that's reading a lot on personal development and what they need to do, you know what I'm saying, and, then these things should be taken in consideration. But it's not.
Oh, so as someone who got out of prison and basically became an entrepreneur and everything, and you're building your own life, and that's very impressive and everything. But what would you say to someone who basically like doesn't know how to, or doesn't know how to self-employ, and he gets out and everything is against him because he has this record and people don't want to hire him? So I mean that really seems to be like one of the big dilemmas of recidivism, is this idea that once you get out, the environment is so hostile because of your past that you can't really get a foothold in general reality, and that's why you go back to crime.
So, what I would suggest is for somebody to find somebody that's done it, you know, because generally there's other brothers that's out here or sisters that have gone through the system, been able to find employment or done some other stuff. Everybody's situation is going to be different, but it's just to hear, you know, like this is what you may face so you can be prepared. This is what I did to get help so that you know
Right.
what direction to go. And they have it in PG County here, they have the peer navigators, which can help a person along or, help them out in those situations because it does become tough. Um, the cost of living doesn't stop just because you just got out of prison.
Right, right.
You still gotta figure out a way to provide for yourself. But then it's also to remind them, like, what would you rather do? Struggle out here or have it easy in there? You know, because you don't have to pay for a meal inside. They'll give it to
Right.
you. You don't have to pay for um, shelter. You know, they'll provide that. But what would you rather?
Like they say, three hots in a cot, right?
Exactly. So it's like, would you rather struggle out here or not in there? So that's a choice. And if a person is willing to endure, then they'll be fine. It's just you gotta keep at it. It's nothing is supposed to be given to you. You know, somebody you may get help here and there, but if you didn't came out the system, most likely you're an adult. So it's time to do what adults do.
Right.
Make a way. Yeah.
Well, this gets back to accountability and responsibility, and that's one thing that I feel. Basically, I always stood up for. I mean, when I made my "I'm God" joke, it's sort of like I got pulled into like this alternate reality where everybody was trying to prove me wrong, and basically I said, "Well, okay, go ahead and try." And it took me 50 years, but actually, after 50 years, the psychiatrist just got tired of trying to prove that I was insane. So, you know, I got my delusions, and actually, I on YouTube yesterday, I was watching this neuroscientist talking about the importance of delusion, and basically how delusion is like the maintenance of goals. And one thing that Andrew and I have talked about is this idea that delusion is a skill that is very hard that you can cultivate in order to realize your own dreams. And the delusion is what drives you to keep going.
I would love for you to look into the Five Percenters, Nation of Gods and Earth, which also called God Body, which they believe, you know what I'm saying, the black man is God and stuff like that.
Right.
And then you look at the philosophy and then compare and contrast your own notes, and you'll see that, you know, you may not be off. Also, different things, whether it be Hermetic philosophy or Egyptian yoga. I mean, the book of coming forth by day, the Metu Netter, different things that basically, you know, lean more into the awakening of who you really are, you
Right.
know. And it's not to say that you are the all supreme being, because I don't know how these systems were created, you know,
Right.
gravity and so forth. But it still lets you know that you have powers that's beyond eating, breathing, and pooping. You know? So,
Well,
you know, so
they,
it's not a far fetch. You know, it's just that people don't like to hear things beyond what they consider normal, and
well,
that's one of
it's
the
also
things.
people don't want to hear something that tests their boundaries.
And that's what I was gonna say. It threatens what they believe is so. So those were the things that I had to learn to be careful about. Um, Speaking with just knowing the audience, like, why would I be talking about something like that to people that I know that it's going to seem like it's blasphemous or, you know, just crazy? Because through history, you had people who get killed for stuff like that. They had the Salem
Absolutely.
witch trials and everything like that. So
Yeah.
you get to talking away. You know, fortunately, we not necessarily in times like that, but you know, it's still people are people, and it's just recognizing that and knowing that, like, okay, I definitely have to be careful of my choice of words or my ideology when I'm dealing with folks.
Well, to be honest, Jim, I sort of feel like I'm the Roger Bannister of metaphysical studies. I broke the 4 minute "Hi, I'm God" mile, and when once that 4 minute mile has been broken, then it opens the door to everybody else. Like,
Everybody else, yeah, yeah.
but you
So
know, I meant
next
like
thing you gonna have the
for
Usain Bolt.
basically 2,000 years, a 4 minute mile was an impossibility,
Hmm.
and then Roger Bannister did it, and within like 2 months, like 20 other people had done it, and now it's like common in high school for people to run 4 minute miles. And basically, I just feel like I was a pioneer who basically took on the job of saying I'm God just to prove that you could say it and escape metaphysical punishment. And this is like what we talked about in my other podcast, doing Andrew conspiracy, is this idea that ultimately uh, it's it's internal acceptance rather than external judgment that's going to determine where you're going to end up.
I agree.
Because ultimately everything, as they say, as without, so within. But ultimately is a, everything external is a reflection of the internal. I mean, this is what I believe, and the more you can like focus on the internal that you're projecting into the world, not only will you understand the world more, but also your power in the world will increase.
Hmm. Got a poem for you there.
Okay, great.
Um, I don't believe I've read this before, but it's called Judgment. You ever heard this one before from me?
Which one?
Judgment.
No, I don't think I've heard that one.
Okay. I've seen too much, read too much, heard too much, and don't agree. Only God can judge me? Bullshit. Sounds good. 12 folks judged me. The foreman stood, found me guilty twice. So what that I could get life? So I disagree. Folks always deciding what's acceptable. Thinking of bad decisions I made over a decade ago that wouldn't be accepted. So So what that I am who I am presently because of mistakes? People will judge me, so I don't agree. God hasn't passed judgment on me. It's always people, cruel ass people. Fuck their standards. So many Bammers ain't qualified. If I was smarter, I would have had a judge trial. Even then I would have a judge. So many judge. I've learned to judge so that I won't repeat what was. People, places, and things. There's so many fucked up sayings. Stuff people repeat that they shouldn't speak. I have a cousin that would say death before dishonor. As far as I'm concerned, he has no honor, but he hasn't killed himself. I have nothing left to prove. I got my stripes. I chose life. You can judge by how I live since. Judge how I give, spent time. I've read too much, learned too much, and I've grown up, and I don't agree with the majority anymore.
I want to be a minority, as Green Day sings.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, one thing that, talking about like recidivism and basically having a sentence or a conviction held against you, that's one of the tricky things about mental illness, because once you get a diagnosis, basically you can't get rid of it. I mean, and you served your time and you got out, and basically, the system said, okay, fine, good luck. But with me, it's like there's always this like doubt at the back of my mind about, if I come out too much and really be myself, people are going to think I'm insane. And that's just like the programming that I was integrated with, and it has a lot to do with the victim mindset, but also it is a reality that, everybody who knows me, basically from the past, still thinks of me as like a psychotic. I don't want to be a victim, but that's just how I feel. It's like once you get the stigma of a mental illness, and it's very hard to get rid of it.
This is the thing, though. If you go places where they don't know you, nobody will be judging you on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I feel like there's those that may have known me from the past, but there's so many people that don't, and I don't look like my mistake, and nobody would know anything about you unless you told them that isn't familiar with you from the past.
Exactly, and so yeah, that's a very good point, and I just I don't know, I just feel that you carry the past with you. You're very right. What people perceive of you is what you reveal to them, because like most people don't know me at all. They don't know that I've been in Hackensack for 50 years under psychiatric care and everything. So really, that's true. If you're in the now, then the now Dale moment, then the past and the future are relevant, because you're just dealing with what's going on in the present, and ultimately that's an infinity of sensations that you have to work your way through.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we're at an hour, so why don't I close with this poem? It's called "When Appearance Is Not Reality." Thinking of situations I create as I live alone in the garden state, I realize at times I'm truly insane due to chemical imbalance in brain, because I deeply believe in spaceships, which will one day transport me to heaven, while I recover from illicit trips, of which I've had many more than 7, and made my mind separate from my bod to lead me to exist in sci-fi land, while in Hackensack I've made final stand as the earthly citadel of Lord God, to whom I have become the Holy Ghost, who will welcome him as a grateful host.
So yeah, we gotta do something to get that out there to the people, man. You definitely, I think, a great writer.
Definitely. And I got lots more where that came from. I got 5 books, but I got 5,000 in the archives. So
Okay, okay, we're gonna get together on that.
yep. Okay, Jamar. Well, I think we're just about exactly in an hour. So have a great day, good session, and everybody, thank you for joining us. And I hope you're enjoying Con in the Dock, and also the Live Love program, which is what we've been doing. And this has been the 6th letter O out of Live Love, observe, and this is just a process that we go through in the Live Love in the Live Love program. And if you're interested in contacting either me or Jamar, feel free. I'll try to put the contact information in the description. So Jamar, have a great day. Bless me. Have a great day, and everybody take care, and have a great day. And thanks a lot, Jamar.
Thank you.
And why don't you stick around and just hold on.